This traditional dress hides supernatural powers. Why do they wear this?
1.5 million wildebeests, 200,000 zebras and 400,000 gazelles travelling to Africa. It's called Great Migration.
There is a place on Earth where lakes turn animals to stone. Lightning strikes the same tree every day.
The tree is on fire.
Got the tree again!
And people whisper about ancient giants frozen in the desert. This is not a movie. It's not a myth. It's Africa. And what's happening here will leave you speechless. From villages floating on water to forests that vanish overnight, the secrets hidden across this continent are so bizarre, scientists still don't have answers. Most of the world has no idea these things exist. But once you see them, you'll never forget. Because nothing on this planet is crazier than Africa. The lake that burns and breathes death. In the heart of Tanzania lies a lake so strange, it feels more like something from a science fiction novel than a natural wonder. It is called Lake Natron, and from a distance, it looks beautiful. The water glistens in the sun with rich shades of pink and crimson. But looks are deceiving, because this lake is death in disguise. Its surface can reach temperatures that cook the flesh of anything that dares to land on it. And its chemical makeup is so harsh that it preserves birds mid-flight into lifeless statues. What causes this horrifying effect? The lake's high concentration of sodium carbonate and alkaline salts creates a lethal environment. If a bird touches the water, it is often blinded, disoriented, and dies quickly. The body is then mummified by the extreme conditions. Photographer Nick Brandt famously captured the haunting remains of these creatures, their feathers perfectly intact, their wings frozen open, as if they died mid-scream. This is not myth or exaggeration. This is real, and this lake is not just a spectacle. It is a warning. But Lake Natron is not the only bizarre body of water in Africa. Move west and you reach Lake Nyos in Cameroon, a place that held its breath for centuries until it released it all at once. In 1986, without warning, this lake exploded, not with lava, but with gas. A silent, invisible cloud of carbon dioxide erupted from its depths and rolled across the land like a killer mist. Over 1,700 people died in their sleep, along with countless animals, suffocated by air that no longer held oxygen. Scientists had never seen anything like it. The cause? Layers of volcanic gases had built up deep below the lake until pressure could no longer hold them back. When it burst, it turned a peaceful village into a ghost town. Since then, engineers have installed degassing tubes to prevent a repeat of the disaster, but many locals still refuse to live nearby. Africa holds the most beautiful lakes in the world, but some are more alive than you think, and not in a way you would want. These lakes do not just sit quietly. They seethe, they boil, and sometimes they kill. So why does Africa harbor such extremes? What else is hidden behind those horizons? The tribes who defy logic, science, and time. There are places in Africa where modern clocks stop ticking and ancient rhythms take over. Here, technology fades into the background, and human tradition takes on a shape so raw and powerful it almost feels alien. One of those places is the Omo Valley of Ethiopia, where tribes like the Mursi, Hamar, and Dasanech carry out rituals that would leave most outsiders speechless. The Mursi women are perhaps the most striking. They wear large clay plates in their lower lips, a tradition that begins in adolescence and continues into adulthood. To many, it looks painful. To them, it is power, beauty, and history etched into skin. But this isn't about shock value. These tribes don't perform for tourists. Every scar, plate, and ritual dance is rooted in survival, identity, and unbreakable links to ancestors. The Hamar tribe, for example, practices the bull-jumping ceremony, an initiation rite that determines if a young man is ready to become a warrior. He must leap across the backs of 10 bulls, naked, in front of the entire village. If he falls, he is shamed. If he succeeds, he becomes a man, a protector, a potential husband. It is one of the most intense rites of passage on Earth, and it happens without cameras, without media, without the world watching. It is raw humanity, preserved without dilution. And then there are the San people of the Kalahari Desert, some of the oldest genetic lineages in the world. Their ancestors hunted and thrived in Africa long before pyramids rose or empires fell. But what truly defies belief is their tracking ability. They can read the ground like a novel, interpreting footprints, crushed grass, and animal droppings with such detail that they can tell you what passed by, how fast it was moving, how long ago it came, and even what mood the animal was in. They can find a snake that slid past at dawn, or a gazelle limping 40 kilometers away. Their skill is beyond explanation. It borders on superhuman. Many scientists have tried to quantify how they do it. MRI scans, behavioral studies, documentaries, but in the end, it is still a mystery. Some knowledge cannot be taught in textbooks. Some is passed from father to son, whispered in wind-blown sands, and carved into instinct. In Africa, tradition isn't just preserved, it evolves and adapts without losing its soul. And these people, living in sync with the land, prove that there are still places on Earth where time has no authority. But the truly strange part, the more you look, the more you realize that science and myth are often the same thing. So what happens when nature and legend begin to blur? Bizarre wildlife and alien landscapes you wouldn't believe are real. Africa is not just a continent. It is an alternate reality where nature plays by a different rulebook. You might think you know elephants, giraffes, or lions, but once you step into the heart of Africa, even the most familiar animals begin to act like creatures from another planet. In Botswana's Okavango Delta, lions have learned to swim. Not just paddle through shallow water, but hunt in it. They stalk buffalo waist-deep in flooded grasslands, leaping through reeds like crocodiles. Evolution didn't plan for this, but Africa did. Then you have the Congo rainforest, where elephants are not giants of the open savanna, but secretive shadow creatures that move silently beneath the canopy. Forest elephants are smaller, darker, and almost ghost-like in their stealth. Locals tell stories of elephants that vanish into the trees without a trace. Some believe they are messengers from ancient spirits, keepers of the forest. And when you see one vanish into the mist, you start to wonder if those legends might be more than metaphor. But nothing warps your perception of reality like Lake Natron in Tanzania. The water here is blood red, and it is so alkaline that it burns the skin of most creatures that enter it. This lake can reach temperatures over 60 degrees Celsius and has a pH level close to ammonia. Birds that land on its surface are sometimes calcified into statues. Their bodies are preserved in eerie perfection, frozen in death like warnings from another world. And yet, life still exists there. Flamingos nest along the lake's edge, their feet adapted to the caustic sludge. Their survival feels more like a spell than science. Further north, in Namibia, lies a place called the Skeleton Coast. It looks like the end of the earth. Fog rolls in from the cold Atlantic, crashing against blistering desert dunes. Shipwrecks rust inland, hundreds of meters from the water, where ocean once reached before the sands swallowed it. Hyenas scavenge among whale bones. Lions stalk seals in the sand. There is no logic here, only survival. And that is what makes it beautiful. And just when you think you've seen the strangest thing, you hear whispers of creatures science cannot explain. Like the Ninki Nanka in Gambia, a massive reptilian beast said to haunt the mangroves, or the Kongamato of Zambia, described as a flying lizard with bat wings, sometimes blamed for attacks in isolated villages. These may be myths, they may be something else, but what matters is that people believe. And belief in Africa carries weight, because here reality bends, nature reinvents itself, and the line between ancient folklore and natural science is never clearly drawn. The land is alive with contradiction. Creatures thrive in volcanic acid lakes. Plants bloom in deserts that haven't seen rain in years. The Sahara, once an ocean, still reveals fossilized whales from time to time, lying under the dunes like forgotten monuments to a world that once was. Africa hides its secrets in plain sight. You only have to know where to look. And the deeper you go, the more you realize that the continent isn't just different. It is something else entirely. A place where survival is an art, evolution is ongoing, and the planet reveals what it is truly capable of. So what kind of truth lies behind the places even Google Earth cannot fully explain? Rituals, wonders, and the impossible made real. There are places in Africa where time folds in on itself, where modern life and ancient tradition stand shoulder to shoulder, completely unbothered by contradiction. You can watch a teenager scroll through social media while his father paints ceremonial scars onto a warrior's chest with a blade handed down for generations. In Africa, the present does not erase the past. It embraces it. And nowhere is that more visible than in the rituals and cultural marvels that unfold across the continent every single day. In Ethiopia's Omo Valley, the Hamar people still celebrate the rite of passage known as the bull jumping ceremony. Young men strip naked and leap across the backs of cattle lined up in rows. If they fall, they must try again. If they succeed, they are declared men. This is not a show for tourists. This is legacy. And while the world outside grows faster and louder, here time holds still long enough for tradition to whisper its truths. Further north, in Morocco, lies a different kind of surreal. The city of Chefchaouen is painted entirely blue. Every wall, every step, every door glows with an ethereal, oceanic hue that shifts with the light. Some say the tradition began to ward off mosquitoes. Others claim it was a spiritual gesture, meant to symbolize heaven. But one thing is certain. Walking through Chefchaouen feels like stepping into a dream. There is nothing quite like it anywhere else on Earth. But not all wonders are peaceful. In Benin, the birthplace of voodoo, ceremonies are performed that leave outsiders breathless. Priests enter trance states. Possessed dancers convulse in sand circles. Fire is eaten. Blades pierce skin that does not bleed. For the faithful, it is not magic. It is a gateway between the worlds. And to witness it is to question everything you thought you understood about human limits. In Zambia, a bridge made of vines stretches across a river with no visible support. Locals say it is maintained by elders using secrets never shared with outsiders. No one has ever seen it built. And yet it stands, generation after generation, woven not just with plant fiber, but with mystery. Try to document it. and it seems to disappear. The only ones who cross it safely are those who believe. Then there is the Fombina festival in Cameroon, where entire villages move together in synchronized rhythm, dressed in radiant cloth and masks that have no known origin. Some of the dances mimic birds, others mimic spirits. Some are meant to summon rain. The air during Fombina feels electrified, as if sound itself is alive. Western choreographers have tried to decode the movements for decades. They never get it right. Because these dances are not just art. They are living history encoded in the body, passed through bloodlines, not classrooms. And what about the African Stonehenge? In Senegal, the stone circles of Senegambia rise from the earth with perfect symmetry, carved and placed by hands whose stories have been forgotten. Some believe they mark burial sites. Others think they tracked the stars. No one knows how such precision was achieved without modern tools. But the stones remain, and they speak to a level of organization and meaning that time tried to erase. Even in the deserts, humans have etched wonders into the land. The Richat structure in Mauritania, also called the Eye of the Sahara, is a massive circular geological formation so large that it can only be fully seen from space. Its origin is debated. Some say it was caused by erosion. Others claim it was a volcanic dome. Conspiracy theorists even argue it's the lost city of Atlantis. What makes it strange is not just its size or symmetry. It's the way it refuses to fit any singular explanation. In South Africa's Northern Cape, an annual festival known as the Gariep Arts Celebration transforms a desolate landscape into a theater of light, dance, and multilingual poetry under the stars. Imagine a dry riverbed turning into a soundstage for fire jugglers, barefoot violinists, and choirs that echo into the night. There are no signs pointing the way, no glossy brochures, just word of mouth, caravans of artists, and locals who build everything by hand. When the celebration ends, it vanishes again until the next year, like it was never there. And just when you think you have seen it all, someone will hand you a carved mask that seems to blink, or a clay pot that sings when the wind hits it, or a musical instrument that imitates the roar of a lion. It sounds unbelievable, but then you are there, holding it, hearing it, feeling the vibration in your bones. And suddenly you realize that logic is not the only path to truth. Africa does not perform for you. It reveals itself slowly, in layers, like a story that unfolds only if you are willing to listen. It demands attention, curiosity, humility, because nothing here is just what it seems. A dance is not a dance. A stone is not just a rock. A mask may hold a spirit, and a simple hut may hold a library of unspoken wisdom. The question is not whether these things are real. The question is whether you are ready to see them. Now, the only thing left to ask is, what other truths are still waiting in the dust, disguised as myth, hidden in plain sight? Creatures, curses, and the lands that shouldn't exist. There are parts of Africa that seem carved out of another planet. Landscapes that defy physics. Creatures that look like they were drawn from someone's fever dream. Traditions so ancient that modern science still struggles to explain how they began. In Africa, impossibility does not mean something cannot exist. It means you just haven't seen it yet. Start with Lake Natron in northern Tanzania. It looks like a mirror to another world, but get too close and the illusion cracks. The lake's water is blood red from salt-loving organisms. It reaches temperatures of over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and carries a pH level nearly as caustic as ammonia. Birds that land on it are often calcified, their bodies preserved like statues. Photos of these animals, stiff and frozen in lifelike poses, went viral online. But what most people don't realize is that these aren't artistic props. They are real, and they are only found here. This isn't just a lake. It's a trap dressed in beauty. Travel west to Gabon, and you'll find a rainforest that holds one of the world's strangest biological secrets: natural nuclear reactors. Yes, you heard that right. In a region called Oklo, uranium deposits went critical, not in a lab, but in the ground, creating natural fission reactions over 1 billion years ago. Scientists discovered these geological marvels in the 1970s and were stunned to realize that nuclear reactions had occurred without any human involvement. It's a mystery that still baffles physicists, and it happened long before humans ever split the atom. Then there's the Namib Desert, not just one of the oldest deserts on Earth, but also one of the strangest. Across its surface are countless fairy circles, round patches of land where no vegetation grows, perfectly spaced apart as if drawn by an invisible hand. Some say termites cause them. Others believe the soil breathes. But no explanation quite fits. These circles stretch for miles, disappearing into the horizon like some ancient message meant for the sky. And deep in Mali, the Dogon people tell stories of the Sirius star system that long predate modern telescopes. Their oral traditions speak of invisible companion stars and orbital paths that match modern astrophysical data. Scholars have debated whether this knowledge was shared by early explorers or passed down by something far older and stranger. The Dogon don't explain it. They just smile. For them, the mystery was never about proving anything. It was about remembering. Africa also holds living things that science barely understands. In Congo, the elusive Mokele Mbembe is said to roam the rivers, a creature described with such eerie similarity to a sauropod dinosaur that cryptozoologists and biologists alike have tried to hunt it down. Expeditions have found massive tracks, tree branches broken at heights no known animal could reach, and local villagers who tell the same story generation after generation. Whether real or legend, the belief in Mokele Mbembe is unshaken. And in a continent this vast, who's to say it doesn't still hide in the mist? In Madagascar, there's a forest where the trees grow upside down, and lemurs scream like human children in the dark. The island itself is a biological anomaly. More than 90% of its wildlife is found nowhere else on Earth. You will not see a fossa, or baobab grove outside Madagascar's borders. The whole island feels like a lost world, an evolutionary sandbox that ignored the rest of the planet's rules and decided to make its own. There's also a strange mountain in South Africa called Table Mountain, flat at the top, shrouded in mist that locals call the tablecloth. Legend has it, the cloud is the result of an eternal smoking contest between a pirate and the devil. Every time the mist rolls in, people still say the match is back on. The reality is just as fascinating. That mist, called orographic cloud, is caused by strong winds that push moist air over the mountain's plateau, but knowing the science never makes the sight less magical. Even the sky behaves differently in Africa. In places like Namibia, nightfall is not just darkness, it's a full-blown celestial performance. The stars here do not twinkle. They blaze. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens in shocking clarity, visible even without a telescope. Tourists come here just to experience astrotourism, because there are still places in Africa where light pollution is so non-existent that you can read by starlight. And in the silence of these ancient landscapes, the universe feels much closer. But it's not just nature that defies expectations. It's how people live with it. In Tanzania's Hadza tribe, one of the last hunter-gatherer groups on Earth, men still hunt with bows carved from wild olive wood, and children learn to identify edible roots by watching baboons. There are no cell phones, no calendars, no currency. And yet, their survival skills are so sophisticated that researchers study them to better understand human evolution itself. In a world obsessed with progress, the Hadza offer a lesson. Maybe the past still knows things we forgot. From lightning-struck shrines in Ghana to volcanoes that glow blue at night in Ethiopia, from birds that mimic cell phone ringtones in Kenya to fish that survive being frozen in Sierra Leone, Africa is not just a continent. It's a realm of living riddles, where everything, every mountain, every plant, every breath of wind holds a secret, if you know how to listen. So what do you make of a place where birds turn to statues, where the earth glows with ancient nuclear energy, where myths have GPS accuracy, and where tribes speak in whistled languages across canyons? You do not just visit Africa, you experience it. You try to keep up. You leave with more questions than answers, and that is exactly how it's meant to be. The cities that break every rule. When most people picture Africa, they imagine wide savannas, roaming wildlife, and remote villages under the stars. But that image misses something far more electric. Africa is home to cities that move at speeds the rest of the world never sees coming. They break every rule of what modernity is supposed to look like, and they do it on their own terms. Take Lagos, Nigeria. It is not just a city. It is a living storm of color, sound, energy, and contradiction. With over 20 million people, it's one of the fastest-growing cities on Earth. On one block, you'll find luxury high-rises and smart tech startups. On the next, open-air markets with vendors selling fresh fish beside digital banks. Lagos is where traffic jams last 5 hours. But everyone still shows up dressed sharp. It's a city where people build businesses from nothing, where generators roar during power outages, and where hustle is not a word, it's a culture. Some say it's chaotic. Others say it's the future. Then there's Nairobi, the tech capital of East Africa. Here, innovation blooms straight from the soil. Farmers use mobile apps to predict weather shifts and sell crops. Young coders work in glass towers built on land once grazed by zebras. And yet just minutes away, giraffes walk among trees and hippos swim in riverbeds. Nairobi National Park sits right on the edge of the city skyline. Where else can you sip espresso while watching wildebeest migrate? Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, holds its own secrets too. It is one of the highest capital cities in the world, a city of ancient empires and modern speed. Here, churches are carved out of solid rock, and planes take off from the same soil where empires once ruled. Addis is home to the African Union and serves as a political nerve center for the entire continent. It balances centuries of tradition with a digital surge of startups and tech schools training the next generation of innovators. Even lesser-known cities like Kigali, Rwanda, challenge what most outsiders expect. Once scarred by tragedy, Kigali is now one of the cleanest, safest cities in Africa. Plastic bags are banned, public transport runs on clean energy, and the streets are spotless. Visitors are often left speechless. How did a city once torn apart by genocide become one of the most admired capitals in the world? What these cities prove is that Africa is not catching up to the world. It is forging its own version of it. And it looks nothing like what you were told to expect. Why you'll never see Africa the same way again. So now you know. The wildest stories, the strangest sights, the things that sound made up. They are all real, and they are all in Africa. It is a continent of contradictions, beauty, terror, innovation, and deep, untamed mystery. You cannot capture it in one photo or summarize it in one sentence. But one thing is certain. Once you see what Africa holds, you will never forget it. If this blew your mind, make sure to like, subscribe, and watch our next episode. Because the truth about what's out there is far more thrilling than fiction.